Kip, what's up, man? So great to see you from France. You're still in France, right?
Yeah, I'll be here until August.
That's too long, man.
I know it's a little. We're going on like a week and a half. I'm like, I'm kind of maybe I'm ready to get home to my
Some
yard that's going to be destroyed and green, like brown, and I don't know. Who knows what's
Bro,
happening at
just
our
be
house? So
present. All right. Just be present with your wife and your kids. Like, stop thinking about. No, I'd be the same way. Somebody asked me the other day about vacations. They're like, "Do you like taking vacations?" I'm like, "Yeah, for about 3.5 days."
yeah,
And then once I hit 3.5 days, I'm like, I tap, I'm out. I got to get
yeah.
back. I got
Although I
work. I got things. I got a garden. I got this. I got that. Like, I want to go back.
Yeah. Although I know that's not necessarily true because when Mr. Mickler goes over to Hawaii, all of a sudden he's like, well, you know what? Maybe I can throw in 2 weeks.
All right. But that's different. Okay. So let's get the nomenclature right here. Let's get the verbiage right.
Okay.
We were talking about vacations. That I didn't say anything about hunting
Yeah.
because hunting's
Got it.
different. That's a different category. All right. So let's be very clear on that. Because look,
Yeah.
but honestly, what's the difference between vacationing and hunting?
Well, hunting, you're still being productive. You're still doing something difficult. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's a different category. All right. So I'll take as
Yeah.
long as I need to go hunt for sure.
I love it. Hey, what happened to the eye, man? You get popped in the eye there, a little
I don't,
bloodshot.
yeah, I got like, I don't know. Can you see it? You probably see it if I turn that
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah. I'd like to say I had a good story. That's a decent story. I mean, it's not whatever. I was playing at the pool and me and Otto were wrestling and I took a straight elbow to the eye and this is the result. So we were laughing and having a good time. I didn't even know what happened, but my oldest son was like, "What happened to your eye?" I'm like, "I don't know what happened to it. You tell me,
You got
you're
to think
looking at
about
it."
it.
And he's like, "It's like you broke a blood vessel." I'm like, "Okay." So I came back. I'm like, "Oh, it looks pretty rad." But yeah,
Yeah.
me and my youngest were wrestling in the pool the other day, and he elbowed me, and I was proud. And this is the result.
Yeah. I love it. And you got some
Yeah,
new digs or upgrades to the digs in the house.
yeah, yeah. So same place. A lot of people might ask, like, am I in a different studio or whatever? No, this is the same place. I just put up the wall here. And I'm glad you brought that up because there's an important lesson here. A lot of guys, especially when it comes to the podcast, will ask, maybe they won't ask, but what their concern is that everything isn't perfect, set up exactly the way that you want it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what I would say, not just with podcasting, but with life in general, is just launch. You just launch and then you figure it out along the way and you upgrade. So, yeah, just put the wall up. You can see there's a little gap right there, a little white.
I
It's
see. I want to
bothering me.
pointed that out. I think you can't even tell.
I can see it. Okay. And that's going to bother the hell out of me right there. So there's a little white gap. So I'm
Yeah.
actually, I'm actually going to tear this whole thing down. Have to.
Paint behind it first and then put
I
that
don't
wood
I
up.
don't know if
Yeah.
I'm going to paint necessarily or just put some sort of a little backdrop so it's black or brown or something so you can't see that. Cuz it's important, the little details are important. But the reason I wanted to share this is because guys, you can build the plane as you go, right? As the saying goes. And you should do
Yeah.
that. I mean, we hear from a lot of guys who are like, "Yeah, I'd like to go to the gym, but I'm not in shape." Come on, man. Like, that's the point. That's why you're going to the gym, to get in shape. So yeah, you're 50, 60, 70 pounds overweight. I'm not going to say it's okay. It's not okay, but it is what it is. So let's start working towards it, or in the relationship. And they're worried about what's going on in their relationship. It's like, just do something a little bit differently, knowing that you can evolve and grow and build. So the podcast studio backdrop is going to improve. I just bought a brand new camera because I want to increase the quality of what we're doing here. I bought this little like screen so you can see if I'm looking at you right now, Kip. My eyes
Yep.
aren't on the camera. So if I look at the camera, which you guys can see
Yeah.
right now, I'm not actually looking at you. So I
Yeah.
just bought
So
this
you have
little
like the little
monitor.
screen up there. Yeah.
Yeah, where I can look at you, but it's also the camera. Like there's
Yeah.
little things that I can improve the quality and what we're doing, and I will over time, but I'm never going to let that little stuff of it not being perfect keep me from launching. And that's what so many guys have an issue with is their inability to launch because they think it just has to be perfect right out of the gate. And look,
Yeah,
I've
totally.
shown people my podcast. Like, if you guys saw my podcast studio, you might unsubscribe. My podcast studio, because of the situation in my life right now, is literally my bedroom. My bed's right there. It's not made. I've got 2 loads of laundry sitting on my bed that I got to do. I've got a bunch of, I just hung up a TV, but the cord's not, in. I got
Yeah.
my gun safe over there. I've got an air gun right here. Like, my closet's a freaking mess. Like, you might unsubscribe if you saw my podcast studio, but there's a lesson there. And that is that we're building a multi 6-figure business. And not only that, but a movement that impacts literally hundreds, if not hundreds of thousands, if not millions of men in a freaking bedroom.
Yeah.
So what
Well,
excuse do we have to like not launch and not work and not improve along the way?
and I think a lot of the time too, Ryan, is we end up setting ourselves up for our expectations to not be met anyway. Right? Like, whenever you have high expectations of it needing to be quote unquote perfect or whatever, and it's stopping you from launch, even if you get those things done, the unknown will happen, other things will occur, and your expectations are just going to be all over the place and you're going to be upset because it didn't go exactly as planned. And it's like, man, a lot of that just sets you up for failure, even if you get past the hurdle of quote unquote setting it up all right.
I'll share a personal story along those lines that I really don't want to share, but it's important I share this. When my ex-wife and I were in the midst of our discussions about separation and divorce, not even separation, just divorce, we were in Maine at the time, and she said she's going to look, people are going to rush to conclusions and jump to conclusions based on limited information. So you have limited information. I just want you to know that you have limited information about the situation. Okay. So you don't need to rush to conclusions about my scenario.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, she said, hey, I'm thinking about moving out. And I said, don't move out, stay here. Because her and I were planning on moving back to Utah because I think that was probably logistically good for us, but also really good for our children because of her family and friends and the support system for our children. That was really important to me. And she said, I'm thinking about moving out, or I'd like you to move out. I'm like, well, I'm not going to move out. And I don't want you to move out. Like, you have a beautiful home here. You take this bedroom. I'll go to this bedroom over here. So again, I don't want to have this conversation. Guys are going to rush to conclusions, but I moved out of the bedroom and I moved into a spare bedroom that we had in the house. And at the time, I walked, like, the first night that I was in that room was rough, but I took a picture because I knew, even in that moment of hardship and heartache and sorrow and regret, that it wouldn't always be the case. Like, I knew 100%, with 100% certainty, that in the depths of despair, which I was at the moment, that it will get better. And I'll post this up for you guys in the next couple of weeks. But I took that picture because I knew there would be a before and after. And I knew that would be the before, and the after is what you're seeing right now. And I've got this beautiful home, and we're building out the podcast studio, and my kids and I are engaged, and we're rebuilding life in a different way that I didn't anticipate and I never expected, and I would never wish on anybody. But I say that because I want guys to know that wherever you are, it's going to change. So if you're at the bottom of the pit, it's going to change. It's going to get better. If you're at the peak of the mountain, it's going to change and it's going to get worse. And you need to be aware of that. Like, you really need to be aware of that. Yeah. I'll tell you what, before my divorce, I thought I was at the peak of the mountain. And I was at the peak of the mountain. My marriage was good. My relationship with kids, I was hunting. I was making good money. I was building this business. Like, everything was awesome. And then one day, in a matter of 2 minutes, everything was not awesome, based on a conversation my wife and I had. But leading up to that, I remember thinking, I'm really worried that things are going to get bad because everything's so good right now. Everything is so good. I'm worried something's going to happen. But I couldn't wrap my head around what it might be. Like, is it going to be financial? No, it's not going to be financial. Like, I'm good financially. Is it going to be relational? No, I mean, my wife and I are good. Like what could maybe a medical thing? I'm like, I'm healthy. I don't know. Maybe, I guess. I had no idea what it would be, but it hit me. And in a matter of 2 minutes, my life completely changed. And I've had to adapt and grow and evolve and change. And it's been really hard, but it's been good over the past, I would say, 2-3 months. So, anyways, a little bit of a ramble there, but I want you to know, guys, life is going to change. If you're doing really well, hedge against it, because life's going to change. If you're at the bottom of the barrel, do some different things, because life's going to get better if you do.
Yeah, this too shall pass, right? Both ways.
Oh yeah, doesn't matter which way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I like it. So we're going to field questions from the Iron Council. To learn more about the Iron Council, go to orderofman.com/Iron Council. That's our exclusive brotherhood. Enrollment is currently closed until next quarter, but stay contact or connected. Yep, go ahead.
I was just going to say, you can go to that link and get on the wait list, or I don't like wait lists because I don't want you to sit around and be passive. So if you go to orderofman.com/battle ready, that'll actually get you started down the path. And that way, when we open up in 3 or so months, 2 months at this point, you have already got a leg up ahead of anybody else. And that's what I'd rather you do, is like, do work now so that when the Iron Council opens up, man, you're going to be light years ahead of everybody else who hasn't done that work.
Yeah, that's good call out. Good call out. All right. We had a couple questions from last week. If it's okay, we'll grab those and then we'll jump to the additional ones that we got today. Sound good?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. All right. Ralph Rojas. Hi, Ryan. My wife keeps making decisions concerning the house and my children behind my back, and then tries to play it off like it's no big deal and that I'm a jerk for bringing it up in a bad way. A bad way is basically me being insulted because she didn't talk to me first. Not so much what she's doing, but how she's doing it. I feel that she circumvents me as head of the household and plays the victim when I call her out on not being so straightforward decision making. My daughter and her, what seems to be on the same team. Luckily, my son sees through that BS and keeps things straight with me. Good thing I took him to Legacy. Maybe we can riff on that if you'd like. Hope all is well.
This is Raul. Did you say this is Raul?
Ralph.
Oh, Ralph. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wrote down some things as you were saying. Number one, perception is reality. So why does she believe that? Like, why does she believe what she believes about the way you're bringing it up? Like, maybe you are being an asshole. I don't know. I actually don't know. I'm not passing judgment. I don't know. But I think it's worthy of consideration. Maybe because I know what I did, and I thought like I was just bringing it up assertively, and it was brought to my attention that I was not.
Yeah. Well, and on that really quick, here's the reality. We're humans. So I would ask Ralph that whether you're bringing it up softly or not, do you have a heart at war towards your wife? Yes or no? And the answer is yes. Because
of course it's
you
yes.
just
Think
called
about teams.
This complete bullshit. You called it out. So she's reading the reality of the situation. Now,
yes,
you were correct about it, but your mindset wasn't. So it doesn't matter. She knows what your mindset is through body language and other means, and she knows you're pissed off about it.
Yeah, my good friend Keith Yackey, he's phenomenal. He's been on the podcast, and he's got some Marriage Game is the name of his podcast and what he's doing, but he's got some phenomenal advice, and he talks a lot about energy. And so the way we could do, you and I, Kip, could do the exact same thing. We could say the exact same thing. We could do the exact same thing, but our energy is what's different. So my son will say, I'll say to him, whatever. I can't even think of an example right now, but I'll say something to him and he'll respond back. What do you guys say as a dad? It's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Yeah. Watch your tone.
We've all said that as fathers. It's not what you're saying, it's how you're saying it. It's the same thing in this situation. It's not what you're saying.
Well,
You're not wrong. She needs to communicate with you on things that are important to you. That's not wrong. The way you're doing it might be. It's the
yeah,
energy. So Keith would say it's the energy behind it. What is your energy? Defensiveness, combativeness, pitting your daughter and her against you and your son. That's
authority
crazy.
versus influence.
Bro,
Yeah,
that's crazy. You're saying,
yeah,
look, I'm gonna be straight up. Like you're saying that you and your daughter are against you and your son. That's crazy. You don't think that's going to create animosity and contention and rifts in the relationship? It's not them versus you. It's us. What's your last name? What's her last name? We're a team, man. I'm saying this from a perspective of things that I wish I would have done better. So I want to be really clear on that. But you're a
yeah.
team. It's not us versus them. Now, should she bring these conversations up to you? I'm not going to get into the should, but if it's important to you, then the answer is yes. And so I think what's really important is the way that we're showing up outside of these circumstances, because that's going to garner influence and credibility with her, which will allow you to have these kind of conversations. And then I would really consider how you're saying things and how she's responding. There's a big push in social media, a lot of these men's programs of if she doesn't like or he doesn't like or this person doesn't like the way I communicate, then F them and they don't understand. And I'm just being authentic. No, you're not. So many men are hiding behind authenticity and using it as an excuse to be an asshole. So if anybody ever comes to you and says, hey, can I be frank with you? No, you can't be frank with me because I know what you're really saying is, can I be an asshole to you?
Yeah.
That's probably what's happening is, hey, I'm just being my authentic self. No, you're not. You're being a dick.
And you're shrouding it underneath the label of being authentic. Yeah.
Right. And I don't know. I don't know if that's true or not. I really don't.
Yeah.
But I've seen it so often where guys are like, hey, I'm just being my authentic self. Hey, I'm just being true. Hey, I'm just being honest. If somebody comes to me and says, hey, can I be blunt? No, I don't want you to be blunt with me because I know you're going to be a dick to me. I want you to come to me with love and care and compassion and kindness and consideration. I don't want you to be blunt with me. I mean, you can be honest with me, but you can do that with kindness and compassion. It's kind of like somebody saying, hey, I don't mean to be offensive, but then whatever's coming next is offensive. You don't need to be like that. These are things I really need to focus on. So what I
Yeah.
would say, and without knowing your situation, is she's feeling a way about the way you're communicating, and there might be a different way for you to communicate. I'm not saying what you need is wrong. If you need something, then that's fine. You should communicate it. But if she's hearing it or feeling it in a way that doesn't jive with the way that you mean it, then there's a disconnect and you can change that so you can be more influential with her.
Yeah. And you need to level set on expectations, right? I mean, one person would say, oh, hey, she's making decisions about the house and the kids without my intervention because she's taking initiative. She's being default aggressive and she's helping me out because I'm busy working on what I'm working on. The same person goes, oh my gosh, that's being done behind my back and doesn't include me, AKA she doesn't care, she doesn't respect me. I mean, there's a lot of story here. And the point is like, man, you got to level set on expectations. And I don't know, Ryan, if this sounds extreme, feel free to push back, but it's like, no one owes you anything. And the minute we approach something is like, well, I deserve, well, why don't you just ask and level set like, hey, this is important to me. I want to play an active role in regards to the decisions around the house, not to be a dictator, not to command and control anything, but it's important to me. And I want to say in what we're doing and I want to participate in what is going on. And as your husband, my ask is, would you be willing to include me more often? And is there things that you want me to include you on where you feel that I'm going off tangent without including you? Am I not giving you the information around finances to create stability and trust in regards to what I'm doing? Like, man, there's a really powerful conversation to be had around partnering together and level setting what is important to you and asking each other, right? if we approach anything, and this goes for work too, by the way, for, those in a work environment, if we approach anything from the space of authority over influence, the probability is you're in the wrong, because you're saying, well, due to my authority, no, man, just influence people and ask, you don't have to pull out the authority card to get what you want. And if you are, then it's out of command and control, and it may not be ideal.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. I had a conversation with somebody the other day, and that's all the details I can give you. But they had said,
awesome.
Yeah.
Just joking.
They had said that they had expressed some viewpoints and some perception about the way that I was communicating. And they were wrong based on my intent, but they were accurate in the way they received it, because I don't know how they receive it. Totally. And so this individual explained something to me, and I said, I'm sorry, that's not the way I meant it. Here's how I meant it. That's it. Problem resolved. Yeah. I will be more conscious of the way that I communicate it so that you receive it in a better way. And now you know what my initial intent was. And so we're good.
Yeah.
Communication is so key.
Amazing how simple.
Yeah. And I would say here also, pick your battles. Like if she's deciding what color throw pillows she wants on the couch, I don't give a shit. Neither should you. Yeah. Now if she's deciding if she wants to do a remodel in the kitchen and it's going to cost you 150 grand, that might be a decision worthy of, discussing.
Yeah.
Not everything needs to be a battle. And some things, you might have green throw pillows when blue would look better, but you know what? Deal with the green. Just pick your battles.
Yeah. And know thyself, right? Why do I want to get involved on the throw pillows? What is it? What is it that I'm seeking validation, so just be mindful of where you're at.
Guys, I'll say, I gotta say this, these podcasts are really therapeutic for me, because this is all advice I need to hear. And it's way easier for me to give you advice than it is for me to listen to my own. So I just want you to know, as I'm listening, I shouldn't worry about the throw pillows, actually. So, yeah.
Totally.
All right. What's
or
next,
I need
man?
to communicate with Asia more around finances.
Yeah,
right.
Right. Exactly.
Trust me, it was in the back of my head. I was like, All right. Simon Trainer. Ryan, I have recently joined the IC to take my life to the next level.
Excellent.
And I've been sharing my journey with my teenage son, who is 15 years old. He is inspired, an inspiration to me, and is definitely more focused and disciplined than I am in many ways. Are there any resources available, or is there a teenage version of the battle planner that you would recommend? It would be amazing if you could use similar systems to reach our goals and accountable to each other.
I mean, we had something, and look, here's what I'm going to say, actually, is you don't need a teenage version. Do your version, do the adult version.
I was going to say
15 years old.
Yeah, buy him a battle planner. Right?
Buy him a battle planner.
System.
Do it together. Sit down. That's awesome. By the way, 15-year-olds are amazing, and they're also assholes. I don't know if I should say that because I have a 15-year-old. He might listen. No, they're awesome.
He's too much of an asshole to listen. Yeah.
Yeah. No, 15-year-olds are awesome. I mean, look, they're rebellious and they're trying to push the bounds, and they're trying to figure out their place in the world and trying to gain some independence. And they act just like we do as fathers. And so it's hard at times, but it's also awesome. It's natural. It's good. I don't think you need for a 15-year-old. I don't think you need a kid's version. You need to show them your battle plan. You need to pull up the videos that we have for that. You need to show them what's going on in the Iron Council, and you need to buy him one and sit down with him and help him work through his things. But he's mature enough that he can go through that and it won't be an issue. Now, what you guys do is your objectives in each of the 4 quadrants. And if you don't know what we're talking about, you can go to orderofman.com/battle ready. It's a good plug right there. You can learn more about what we're doing, but you need to sit down with him and go through each of the 4 quadrants. Yours might be a little bit more sophisticated than his, but that doesn't mean that his are unnecessary or the planning doesn't work. It certainly does. So I don't think you need a new system. I think you have one, it. Sit down with him every Monday night or every Tuesday night. It's like me and Dad, we go through this planning stuff. I think he'd be all about that based on what I'm hearing you say.
Totally. And so good for you too, right? One of the best ways to concrete in information, right, and knowledge is instructing others, right? And so it would really help you too to be able to simplify it a little bit, right, for the 15-year-old, or make it relatable to what's important in his life. So I think it's a good call. Yep. Love it. All right, David Dahl, what are your takes on staying together for the kids? Is it better to exhaust all options and trying to make the relationship work in order to allow your children a single roof over their heads? Does there come a time when you as a parent have to put happiness first in order to be the best parent you can be for your children? Love what you guys are doing. Thank you in advance. These are some good stuff. Questions today, by the way.
I stalled at the same place you did on that question. I saw these questions and you stalled at, is it better for happiness? No, you don't have to be sorry. You said, is it better for happiness? I actually stalled there too, because happiness really isn't the goal. And those are choices that we can make. What were you thinking when you heard that or you saw that?
Well, it's funny how we see this all the time, right? That's the number one excuse, or not, and I shouldn't say excuse. It's the number one probably justified reason for divorce, without a doubt, is we're unhappy, we're fighting all the time, and then we follow that up with, well, what's better? Have an environment where they have both parents that are bickering and fighting all the time, or to have both parents that are blissfully happy, in separate homes. And it's funny, it's like, oh, it's that or that, or it's like, or resolve whatever it is the issue in the relationship and be happy with your current spouse, right? Like, but we don't talk about that, right? It's like, well, it's this or that. There's no other possible solution.
Yeah. I mean, so as you're saying that, what I hear is this concept of false dichotomy, right? You're saying we could be together and we could be miserable for the kids, or we can be separate and we can be happy. And happiness is a choice, and marriage is a struggle at times. And, you have two people who grew up in different environments, who have different beliefs, maybe different cultural upbringing, and you're trying to create a union. And then we throw in emotions there, and being irrational at times and temperamental like we all are. And then we expect that everything's going to go swimmingly. it just isn't. Go ahead.
Yeah. And I think we assume that by exiting, that we'll find someone that will make that scenario different while we remain the same. And it's going to be easier. And I don't know, like maybe I'm more negative in this camp, but like, I don't think that's true. I think in most cases, it's just as hard as it was before. It's a trade-off of one thing for another thing. And although Asia has amazing traits that I appreciate out of her that my ex-wife never had, she has aspects of her that are just frustrating as hell that my ex-wife never had, right? Like, and I don't think I don't know. And I think it's dangerous because we go into this idea that it's them when most of the time it is us.
Yeah. Can you read that first part of that question? There was something and I forgot what it was, but there's something I wanted to hone in on.
Staying together for the kids. Is it better to exhaust all options and trying to make the relationship work? Yeah.
That's okay. So I want to hone in on that. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
The answer to that is yes, 100%.
Yeah.
Look, you committed to this woman.
Yeah.
I mean, you committed. You told her, like, are you a man of your word or not? Like, you committed to her. You said, I'm going to love you forever, either eternally or till death do you part, whatever your belief might be. But you committed to this woman. And you're telling me that you're not willing to exhaust all options? I don't think that of you, by the way, but that's the verbiage you're using. Should I exhaust all options? Absolutely, you should exhaust all options because it's better for her. It's better for you. It's better for the kids. Now, I'm not saying that you should be miserable forever, but you should exhaust all options. You should look at what we're doing here. That might help. You should go on a vacation together and work through that. You should have conversations together. You should consider therapy. Exhaust every single, and I'm coming to you as a recently divorced man. Exhaust every single option. It's better emotionally. It's better mentally. It's better physically. It's better for your children. It's better financially. It's better for everything for you to stay together. So you owe it to yourself, your kids, and her to exhaust every single option. Now, let's answer the question in the spirit of which it's asked. If you've exhausted every option and it's not working for her or you or both of you, I want to be careful in what I say here. I don't know. I don't know. Actually don't know. I'm not going to say yes. I don't know. I don't know if it's I lean towards it's not better. Yeah. And I don't know the data. I don't know the statistics. I don't know the research. I just anecdotally lean towards after you exhaust every option. And I throw that in there because most of us haven't. Like we really haven't. So let's not use that as an excuse. But if you have, and that's a slim fraction of us, I think. If you have, I think it's probably healthier. I'm so hesitant to say it this way just because of my own. I think it's probably, and what I'm dealing with my kids right now, but I do think it's probably healthier. I don't know. I don't know, man. I'm not going to answer that question because I don't know. I just know how hard it is for my kids right now and what they're dealing with, that it's hard for me to say, oh yeah, it's better if you're separate. I just don't know, man. I really don't. What do you think?
Well, and I got older boys, right? And so I used to say this all the time. It's like, oh, well, they bounce back fine and they're all good. And I'm not, it's not really a joke, but I kind of like jokingly say like, well, we'll see when they're 25 and they have commitment issues and can't settle down with a girl.
Mm.
Right? Like the repercussions, valid. Man, like they're not now. I mean, don't get me wrong. They're now in your face, right? But who knows, right? Like, the repercussions of the decision are far greater than just, my kids are going to be happy. It's right. Yeah, man, it's tough. Right. And I understand why you don't want to answer that. Like, because we don't know. And it's almost like that plank challenge, right? Like I've been with you. We've done so many Order of Man events, right? And we do this plank. Maybe I shouldn't share it, but we do this plank challenge.
Shit. Now we're going to have to do a different challenge because Kip disclosed all our secrets.
Yeah, there you go. So, but at one point, right? Like eventually guys start dropping.
Falling out.
And then the question that you ask is what?
Could you have gone longer?
And the answer to that for every single person is
yes,
I could have done more. So exhaust all options. We can always say, I could have tried harder. I could have done this better. Stuff.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever had a question on this podcast after 8 years of doing this where I said, I don't know. But I will tell you that I can look myself in the mirror and say that I personally have exhausted all options. Like I can sleep at night knowing that. I can look myself in the mirror. I can look myself right in the eye and say, yep, you exhausted all options. And it's not great because the outcome is not what I wanted or expected, but at least I have that. And there's another question in here. We should probably get to this question next. And I really, really don't want to answer this question. But there's another question from Rick Donovan, I believe.
Yeah.
And I think it ties into what we're talking about here. But I can look at myself and say that I've exhausted all options. Yeah. And I can put my head on that pillow and sleep comfortably knowing at least that. Yeah. So I would say yes, exhaust all options.
And that I just want to stress how important that is. And that's how we deal with hardship, by the way, is being in integrity with how we dealt with it. And that's how we let go of it as well, of what we once had or the way we wanted it to be. For me, I didn't exhaust all options before I got divorced. I didn't, because I wasn't even, at the time, I wasn't even the right mindset to even, I was a victim and, like I was doing nothing wrong and she just left, right? Like I was oblivious, so oblivious. Yeah. But to be really clear and somewhat extreme, and people have placed judgment on me for this all they want. And I actually don't care because it's what I needed to do. But I literally dated my ex-wife for like on and off for like 5 years. And people would say, oh, Kip, she's taking advantage. She's dragging you through. And what are you doing? And blah, blah, blah. But you know what? I wanted my family. And I don't think when all is said and done, I was like, oh man, I took advantage of. No, I was willing to drag through in hopes that I could maybe pull it back together last minute.
Yeah.
And that's what I needed to do. And eventually it was enough. Eventually I was like, okay,
I've done everything.
This isn't going to work.
Yeah.
And then I was able to walk away.
Yeah.
All right. So Rick Donovan, how did you flip the switch from I want to get my wife back to I'm ready to date again? I ask because failed relationships are a big reason why a lot of guys are in the IC, and some are stuck in that spot of not knowing when or how to flip that switch.
So I hesitated when I saw this question because I really didn't want to answer it and here's why. Everybody's going to have an opinion about my situation. Some of it's going to be favorable, which I have a lot of support, guys like you and Jay and Chris Gatchko and like so many guys. And then some of the people listening to this podcast or tapped into whatever we're doing in various degrees are going to have a negative perception of what's going on. But here's the reality. You don't know my situation. You don't know. You have no idea. You're making judgments based on faulty, inaccurate, or incomplete information, which is okay. That's what we do. And I expect it because I'm in the public eye. So people are going to judge harshly or with grace and leniency. They're going to make those decisions, and that's up to them to how they make those decisions. But the reason I'm hesitant to answer this is because I am dating, and I'm dating somebody in particular. And people will say, well, that's too quick. How do you know? Do you know my situation? Do you know what's going on? Do you know everything I've tried? Do you know the conversations my ex-wife and I have had? Do you know the conversations my girlfriend and I have? Like, do you have any of that information? Are you privy to any of that? No, you're not. So you don't know. So let's just be very, very careful in rushing to conclusions, not just about me. This isn't about me. This is about all of us. Like, why are you judging a man based on information that you know nothing about? You know, I thought about this with regards to health. You see this guy walking to the gym. You're at the gym. You see this guy walking to the gym, and maybe he's 80 pounds overweight. And what do? We're like, oh, look at this guy. Oh, I did it today. A guy was using 15-pound weights. And I was like, what the hell is that guy doing? Like 15? Come on, bro. You can do more than that. I don't know.
Little do you know he's doing 100 reps of 15. Yeah.
Exactly. Maybe he's doing 100.
Yeah.
Maybe he just broke his arm and he's doing recovery. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I sure as shit judged him for it. I don't know. Why do we do that? It makes us miserable. I know that when I don't judge as harshly, I'm happier to be around, and I'm more pleasant in my own life. Like, I like myself more.
Yeah.
But if I walk around and say, that guy's not doing enough weight, and that guy's overweight, and that guy's an asshole, and that guy, I'm miserable. And I don't want to be like that. So what I try to do, or at least I'm learning to do, is give guys the benefit of the doubt. So this guy in the gym today, he's doing 15-pound weights. I'm like, oh, he probably hurt himself. This is probably not true either, but I don't know. So I might as well make up something that makes me feel better.
Yeah.
Or here's another thought. Hey, that guy's in here getting after it. How many people are at home in their bed, doing nothing right now? But here he is. He's doing 15-pound weights. I think he could probably do more, but you know what? He's here. He's doing his thing. That's awesome. So it's all just a perception. That's why I'm hesitant to answer that. But again, in the spirit of the question, I'm not going to get into the details because I made a commitment that I would. What was my commitment? I'm trying to think about this. My commitment was that I'm not going to speak poorly of my ex-wife. And I don't have anything negative to say at all, by the way, but I don't want anything to ever be misconstrued as negative towards her. So I'm going to be a little bit discreet in the way that I share this, but I will say this. There was a moment, one particular moment, that I realized, yep, this is over.
Done. Yeah.
Yep. And there was a lot leading up to that. There was a lot of me trying and efforts and conversations and back and forth and tears between both of us. And again, I'm not going to get into all the details, but that happened over time. But there was one moment where I was like, I got it. I understand.
Yeah.
And no ill will, no animosity, no contention, but I got it.
Yeah.
And that moment was difficult to wrestle with. It was a lot of tears on my part, very hard to deal with in that moment. But also pretty cathartic for me in that I can hang up my hat on that and say, you know what, that chapter is closed. Let's close that book, close that chapter. And it was liberating in a lot of ways. And, you know, I spent time thinking about that, pondering on that, developing and building relationships with my kids and rebuilding those. And, but, you know, I felt like I had a lot of love to give. I like companionship. I appreciate women. I like what women bring to a man's life, clearly. And I felt like I had love to share, and I was after companionship, and I started dating. You know, I got on a couple apps. By the way, guys, like dating, going on a first date is easier than it's ever been. What the hell is wrong with you if you can't get a first date? Like, so many people are like, oh, Tinder, Bumble, I hate these. What? Why? They're amazing. You go on these apps, and so the apps that I was on was Bumble and Hinge. Those were the two apps I was on, Bumble and Hinge. And they're awesome. You pull up this app and you get like, you know, 30 or 40, depending on your place, maybe more, depending on where you live, beautiful women who want to date you. And all you have to do is be somewhat normal and not a creeper. Like, if you can't get a first date, like, we need to talk about that. So did a little bit of dating, and, you know, one particular woman and I hit it off, and it's been great. You know, it's like, so I just remember that pivotal moment and my desire to have companionship and be with a woman, and that's it. Like, I don't know if there's much more to it.
Yeah. I think you answered the question, the switch, right? And it just kind of wasn't something you created per se, as much as just there was kind of a natural, like, yeah, this is over, you know, and a moment of letting go. It sounds like.
And look, I busted my balls. You know, you and I have had conversations about everything that I try to do and change, and you guys can hear it. You can hear it in my voice. Yeah. Busted my balls. It just wasn't going to work. And so at some point you've got to realize, you know what? I'm switching tactics.
This isn't working.
Yep.
Yeah. All right.
And if you need help on the dating apps, I mean, maybe we could put together a course or whatever, but I'm like, I'm not going to say, I was going to say something. I'm not going to say it because it's going to come across as insensitive, but guys, like, dating apps get a bad rap. I went out with quite a few women, and I loved every date I went on. Now, not every date did I hit it off with that individual, but I enjoyed going out. And I would say that part of it was that I didn't have any expectations. Look, I don't need to get laid. I don't need to get married. So my expectation was so low. I'm like, let's just go have a good time.
Enjoy the moment.
And if it goes somewhere from there, cool, then we'll enjoy that next moment. But that was helpful for me. And then just not being a total douchebag and creeper was really helpful as well, because there's so many men. I've heard some crazy stories. I'm like, this guy's an idiot, you know? So yeah.
See, I just assumed that she used the new website orderaman.com, and she found your profile on there. It's only your profile. There's like no one else on there.
That's Order a Man. That's not Order of Man. That's
what I said.
Man. Oh, okay. I didn't hear you say that.
That's what I
said. Which, by the way, we need to create a new dating site. All right, let's move on.
All right, Patrick Calhoun. My in-laws create a toxic environment every time we see them, to the point that my kids want to almost nothing to do with them. Everything.
I already know the answer to this question, by the way. Let's see if I get it right.
Okay. Everything they do for the kids is with heavy strings attached, or is present with guilt and shame in mind as a primary motivator. It puts my wife in an awful situation, as I want to address them head on, but she does not want to, and just gets along to, you know, so she doesn't offend everybody. I am, or the mindset to cut them loose. How should one approach this touchy subject? What are your thoughts? Proceed.
All right, let me give you the formula. Number one, you're going to need to have a lot of conversations with your wife. And by the way, when I say conversations, I'm talking about asking questions. Do not talk at her. Okay. Don't tell her why this is bad. Don't tell her why she should feel this way. Don't tell her what the things you should do. It's not what I'm saying. I'm saying ask her questions. Hun, how do you feel about this? How does it make you feel? Are you okay with this? Does it upset you? What boundaries would you put in place? What do you like? What don't you like? What are the consequences if we do X, Y, and Z? What are the consequences if we do A, B, and C? You need to ask her questions. This is what great leaders do. They elicit response and engagement from the people that they want to influence and inspire. That's your wife. You're the leader of the house. You're not the dictator of the house. You're the leader of the home. You're the leader of the family. She has your last name. You need to lead. And we do that by encouraging her to come out of her shell and talk about maybe things that are uncomfortable for her to talk about, because the best definition of leader I've ever heard is taking somebody to a place that they could not have imagined going on their own. And we don't do that by coercing, manipulating, gaslighting, strong arming, blackmailing, manipulating, all of those things. We do that by asking them really, really good questions, because I'd be willing to bet, in light of her not wanting to rock the boat, she probably feels very similar to you. That's why you love each other. That's why you guys have children together. That's why you guys are together, is because you're in alignment with a lot of these things. Not everything, but a lot of these things. So if you ask her and you help her come to her own conclusions, you're going to have a better time than telling her all the things that you want to do. Because here's what happens. If you push your agenda, you're the bad guy. You're the dick that got between her and her family. And that's your fault. You want to be that guy? You don't want to be that guy. She needs to come to the conclusions. And you get her there by asking her really good questions and letting her go through the process herself. That's step number one. Step number two is, once we get to that place, then we can start having some conversations with our significant other about how we address this with your in-laws and her parents. And there's got to be some rules in place. And you might just do this really delicately at first. Maybe it's not everything all at once and this total barrier between all the things they need to do differently, but maybe there's one thing, like candy, for example. I don't know if this is true or not, but maybe they give your kids candy and you and your wife are not on board with that. That's a very simple, small thing. And it could be as simple as saying, hey, mom, dad, look, we've tried really hard. In fact, I would encourage her to do this while you're there with, like, you guys do it together, not you or not just her, but you guys do it together. Because if you put it on you, again, you're going to be the dick. If you put it on her, she's probably not going to do it. Like, she's probably going to tell you she did it, but in reality, she didn't really do it. What you guys talked about. That's probably what's going to happen.
Yeah. So, or like a soft version of it. Yeah.
Exactly. So you guys do it together and you say, hey, mom and dad, like, we realize you love the kids. We know that when you give them candy, it's because you love them and you want them to love you and you want to have a good relationship. But we're really working on our nutrition right now, and candy, especially late at night, makes the kids go crazy. So we've implemented a rule in our house that we're not doing candy at all, or we're not doing candy after 2:00 in the, or whatever, whatever the thing is. And so we would really appreciate if you didn't give the kids candy, but what you can give them is fruit. Or what you can give them is this. How you can show them love is through these ways. But we ask that you don't do candy. That might nip it in the bud right there.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, then, hey, folks, like, we told you no candy, and we were actually really serious about that. It's important to us. It may not be as important to you, but we're their parents, and it's important to us. And we love that they have a relationship with you, and we love that we can bring them over on Friday night when we go on a date. But if you're going to give them candy, then we're going to have to make a different choice, and we're going to have to hire a babysitter, which we can certainly do. But we want to give them the opportunity to build a relationship with you. So could you please stop giving them candy after 2:00? That's really important to us. But here's what you can do. Can you do that for us? So you continue to escalate. If they keep doing it, then it's like, okay, hey, we're going out on Friday night. We would have loved to have brought them to you. We can't do that anymore because you're not honoring and respecting our wishes. We can do things as a family. We can go on vacations. We can go to the lake together. We can have fun, but we can't bring them over unsupervised anymore because you aren't willing to uphold our boundaries. Has that changed? If it has, please let us know and we'll bring them back over to you. But if not, we just can't do this anymore.
But Ryan, my in-laws, we're not talking candy here. They're toxic, they're horrible, they're mean, verbally abusive to my kids. They're completely unaware. This is just a miserable, like, people to be around.
That's easier. That's easier. Candy's the hard thing because it's like, oh, it's just a piece of candy. What's the big deal? That's easier. Or excuse me, that's harder. It's the harder things like what you're talking about that are easier. So in that case, you need to bring it to their attention. Like you owe it to them and your kids and everybody else to bring it because they may not know.
Yeah.
So, hey, you know,
and that's
what?
the right way to handle that, period.
I think as a man, for sure.
Yeah.
So you do step one. Step two is bring it to their attention. Hey, mom and dad, look, the kids, we brought the kids over and we've repeatedly told you about the way that the fun that they're having or the way that they interpret these times. And it's not good. You tease them, you make fun of them, you call them names. We don't like that. And we're going to establish a boundary. And the boundary is that we can come over and spend time with you guys together as a family, but our kids are no longer coming over here by themselves because we're not happy and satisfied with the way it goes. Now, there is a path to recovery. The path to recovery is that we as a family come over and we spend time together on Saturday or Sunday and we have Sunday dinner or whatever we do. And if we can see that you're sharing with them in a constructive, positive way, then maybe we can extend that out and leave them here for an hour while we go grab dinner and we'll see from there. But for now, as it stands, the kids will not be alone with you anymore because of the way that the experience goes. That's easy. I should say that's simple. Emotionally, it's very difficult. Who do you care more about? Your in-laws or your kids? What do you think? Would you add anything to that?
Well, the only thing I think is what you've already alluded to is, there's value in your wife coming to the conclusion on a lot of the things by you facilitating the conversation that gets her buy-in. But also this is her difficult situation more than yours, right? This is her mom and dad. So respect that and help her identify and align together as a couple in regards to the best way moving forward. I just want to call out that, that's a tough situation for her possibly.
Well, and because it's so difficult, it's important for her to say these things, not you.
Yep. It's her mom and dad. It's her relationship on the line with them,
So you can be there with her, but she needs to be the one having these conversations. Because again, I want to reiterate, if you do it, you're the dick.
Yeah.
And you're the one that drove the wedge, not her. You are. So she really, if she believes in you and she trusts you and she believes this way about a thing, you gotta make sure she's the one that communicates this, not you. You can be there to support her and fill in where you need, but she's the one that needs to do it.
Yeah. So Jeremy Roach, this is really funny. He actually doesn't have a question, but it's maybe a plug for the value of maybe journaling for some of us. He wrote, typed out 2 paragraphs and answered my own question. I'll stand by and enjoy the podcast. Be blessed.
I mean, isn't that it?
But
that's awesome.
Yeah. But it's kind of how it works. You start processing, your thoughts and feelings and you're like, oh, wait, that's a little bit more clear now.
I got an email message on Instagram from a guy the other day. He's like, what do you think I should do? Long story short, what do you think I should do? I'm like, I don't know what you should do. It's your problem, not mine. I'm done giving people advice unless it's like a broad thing. Like this is different, right? Because it's a broad thing. We're answering questions. But if somebody comes to me,
a broad statement. Yeah.
Yeah. If you came to me, Kip, and you're like, what do you think I should do? I'd say, well, what have you tried? And you'd say X, Y, and Z. And I'd say, well, what worked?
You should do, Kip. Yeah.
And you'd say, well, this worked, but this didn't. Okay. What are you going to try next? Well, I don't know. That's why I'm asking you. Well, I don't know your situation. What do you think you should do? Well, I think I should try this. Have you tried it? No. What's keeping you from trying it? I'm worried. I get that. I'd be worried too if I was in your shoes. what's the end result, whether it goes good or poorly? Like what would happen? I'm done. I'm done answering people's questions individually.
Yeah. Well, who wants to be acting on a decision that wasn't made by you anyway?
I just don't want to be the bad guy. I like, look, you're a big boy. Like if I make the decision for you, you're going to blame it on me if it goes wrong.
Yeah.
That's what we just said about the marriage thing. If
Totally.
I make the decision for you, you're going to blame me if it goes south.
Well, and your commitment to the decision is compliant at best. You're not bought into that idea. You just listen to Ryan, right? Like that's the power of us processing, thinking logically, and making a decision that we're committed to. Is there's power and momentum around that. The amount of momentum I'd put in advice from someone else to say, oh, just do ABC, I'm going to be speculative still. Oh, maybe is it still going to work? I'm not fully bought in and committed to that. I've just outsourced it. So then that way I have, someone to blame it on when it doesn't work.
You have a fallback. You have a fallback guy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing is like,
Yeah.
if it goes wrong, you're going to blame me. If it goes well, you're going to take credit for it.
Yeah.
So what's in it for me?
All right.
Like, really, like if you're going to give me credit, if it goes well, then maybe I can consider that, but you're not, you're going to take credit yourself. Like, oh, I did that. I came to a resolution.
Yeah.
And also,
Yeah,
if you care about people, it's the teach a man to fish versus feed him a fish mentality, right?
Totally.
It's like, I'm just not interested in giving you a fish. You get your own fish. I'm interested in showing you how to tie the fly and how to cast and how to find the right places. But you ultimately need to do it. And then I'm interested in teaching you how to land the fish and use the net to pick them up. Like, but you need to do it. I'm not doing it for you. I'm done.
Yeah.
I have my own stuff. Like I have enough of my own stuff.
Well, and to be frank, like fulfillment and growth is knowing how to fish. It's not eating the fish.
Yeah. But that's what a lot of us are after. I mean, there's so much self-help out there that says, do this, do this, do that, do this. I talked about it with our battle planning stuff. Like one of the differences between the way that we teach planning and goal setting is I'm never going to tell you what you should do. I don't know what your goals are. Your goals are different than mine. They're not less relevant. They're just different. And so if I tell you, you need to learn how to hunt, or you need to go train jujitsu, or you need to go do this, or you need to eat these foods, I don't know. All that I want to do anymore is just give you a track to run on, a path to run on, and help you identify goals and give you a path to streamline the process to achieve what you are after, not what I'm after, not what I tell you should do. That's arrogant. And I was arrogant for a lot of years in telling you what you should do. You should train jujitsu. You should do this. You should. I'm done. I don't know that you should do that stuff. What do you think you should do? And how can I help?
Yeah. Matt Hatfield, last question is if that's okay.
Yeah, it works.
Okay. Matt Hadfield, as you seek to improve and become the man you were meant to be, how do you guard against burnout and fatigue? What strategies have you found useful in keeping the fire burning long-term? And where, in your experience, are those moments of burnout or fatigue likely to occur for men?
For me personally, with burnout and fatigue, it gets monotonous for me. And if things get monotonous, even if I'm working towards a goal, I tend to burn out. So I don't burn out with pace. I don't really burn out with tempo. I burn out with monotony. That's me personally. So I have to mix things up. So if I'm training for a run, running every day is probably not something I'm going to do. Could I run every couple of days? Probably. I could probably force myself to do that. But maybe it's going for a bike ride. Maybe it's jumping on the treadmill. Maybe it's doing a HIIT workout. Maybe it's training jujitsu. These things are all going to strengthen my cardio, which are going to help me in that run. If I'm building a business, I may have goals and places I want to go, but if I'm doing the same thing every single day, that monotony just gasses me. And so it might be, what's a new strategy? With my financial planning practice, the reason that you're listening to this podcast is because I got bored with financial planning. It was all the same. It was all like call cold calls, ask for referrals, use this script, do this thing. I was like, God, there's got to be a better way. I'm so sick of doing the same thing over and over again. And what I would do, what I started doing is I bought CDs at Best Buy or whatever, wherever it was, Staples, blank CDs. And I went to a place to get my picture taken. It reminded me of Napoleon Dynamite, where Kip goes in, he's like, is there some sort of vest I can wear? It was like a place like that. And I went, I put a suit on and I went to this place. I'm like, take some professional pictures. And I was, like doing this with my, hand on my chin and this kind of stuff,
for the label,
for the
label of the CD.
Yeah. And I brought it and I downloaded it off Microsoft Word or whatever. And I printed these off and I individually stuck labels on these CDs, and the audio was a $67 Yeti microphone, Snowball, I think is what it was called. And, I recorded a 15-minute conversation. It was the very first conversation I would have with a client if they were in my office, because I was so tired of just talking with people in my office for them to say no. I'm like, all right, let me just start giving people a CD, and they could say no before they even meet with me. And so I gave them the CD, and they
save you some time.
The only people who met with me at that point were people who were like, I like what this guy has to say. I'm interested. And then I got this call from a pediatric physician in Pennsylvania. And I only remember that because it was 3 Ps, pediatric physician, Pennsylvania. And he said, hey, I need disability insurance and I need X, Y, and Z. And he ran through this laundry list of things that he needed in his disability insurance policy. Now, if you're anything like a normal human being, you know nothing about disability insurance, let alone all the features and benefits that you think you should need.
Yeah.
So I asked the guy, I'm like, you know a lot about disability insurance. Like, you're either shopping around or you're an insurance agent disguised as a physician. Like, what's going on here? And he said, oh, no. I just listened to your podcast and I wrote down everything you said I needed. Like, light bulb moment. Got it.
Yeah. You're like, nice.
I'm in your head. And I realized this is a really powerful medium, but I would never have done that if I didn't get bored with what I was currently doing. So here's what I would say to surmise this. You don't need to change the destination as often as we do. You just need to change the route. So keep working towards what you're working towards, but see if there's a different way you can do it, and explore the veins and the quirks and the oddities and the weirdness and the fringe. Explore all of those, because that's going to add a different dynamic to your life, a different dimension. It's going to keep things engaged and interesting, but you're still working towards the same objective.
Yeah, I like that. I was reading a study, a couple months ago, around the majority of like employee burnout and anxiety. And in the study, it suggested that most anxiety and burnout is a result of a lack of clarity around objectives of the work that they're doing. Mm-hmm. So I'd maybe latch onto that too. You're getting burned out. Okay, well, what's the long-term plan here? Why are you doing what you're doing? Is that clear? Do you have a game plan of how long you're going to do whatever it is that you're doing and what you're achieving and what the goal end result is, or the goal and the objective? And if you don't, then I'd suggest you figure that out and then pivot, right? If it's out of alignment, that gives us purpose, right? It's just like holiday, right? The minute you book the flights, you start going on vacation then, because now it's coming, you know, and you need to know what's coming in regards to what you're working towards.
Imagine if I told you to build a trench, dig a trench. I said, dig a trench. I need a 300-yard trench from this point to this point. Like, just go ahead and dig that trench. Like, how quickly would you lose interest in that?
Yeah.
But if I said, hey, the reason that we're digging this trench is because there's a big water source over here and we need to come over here because all the kids are over here. And once we dig that trench, and it's going to take us a few days, but once we dig that trench, then all the water is going to come over here and it's going to create this amazing pool that we can play in and we can laugh in and we can enjoy, and we can do cliff jumping and we can have the kids there and they can laugh and play, enjoy. Like, yeah, of course you're going to dig the trench and you're going to be happier about it. You might do the first one, but you're not going to be happy about it. But if I told you the reason behind it, like, yeah, it would still suck. Don't get me wrong. But every moment that it sucked, you'd be like, yeah, this sucks, but it's going to be awesome when we get there.
Totally. The perfect example of this is at the lake. We get branches and all the stuff that needs to be cleaned up all the time, right? Getting my kids to clean up those branches and those twigs and like clean up the yard is like pulling teeth. But if I'm not having them clean up and I look around, they're doing it already because they're trying to build a fort.
Yeah,
they're working just as hard for themselves, right? To build these fake walls and do this little hut and all this stuff. And I'm like, man, why don't they work that hard when? And I'm like, oh, because the desired outcome for them is what? This fort, this cool thing. They see the purpose of it, right? And what's mine? The lawn needs to look clean.
To be an asshole. That's yours.
Yeah. Just to be a jerk. Yeah. Totally. Hey, there's one last question. You could probably answer it really quick here.
Okay.
Brendan Bagden. I'm focusing on getting my emotional house in order this quarter. I just read The Power of One More, which has lit a fire underneath my ass. What other books on emotional intelligence or your emotional house would you recommend?
Two things. As a Man Thinketh by James Allen and Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl.
Yeah.
Would you add anything to that? Do you have another suggestion?
I like John Gary Bishop a lot. So his book on F Yourself. And then the book Emotional Intelligence is pretty good on emotional intelligence.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are both good recommendations. Anything on stoicism is usually pretty good.
Yeah.
Look, I'll say it like
Guide
this.
to the Good Life.
Ryan Holiday's writing is phenomenal. I was going to say him as a human being. I don't know him as a human being, so I'm not going to say that. But his political views and the way that he approaches some scenarios, specifically as it relates to COVID, I vehemently disagree with. And I lost a lot of credibility and respect with the way that he approached that. But his writing is phenomenal, especially on stoicism. Yeah. So you could check out anything by Ryan Holiday. But
me personally, though, I think the best book on stoicism is Meditations by Marcus Aurelius and The Guide to the Good Life. I love
Guide to the Good Life. I like
that. Is such a good book.
I don't
know why, but I loved it.
I'm not all the way in on meditations. I know I'm supposed to. I know everybody's like meditations. Like maybe
it's
I'm
just
too
kind of
dense.
Cool that it's directly from Marcus Aurelius. Yeah,
I know, but maybe I'm too dense and I'm trying to like decipher what he's saying. Maybe I'm too dumb and I'm like, I don't get it. He's using language I don't understand. So like make it easier for me. That's how I feel even about like this is gonna offend people. Never mind. I'm not gonna say it. We'll stick with meditations.
I want to see your version of the Bible that you read. Yeah.
It's a really dumbed down version because I'm like, what? Getting through Isaiah is like, what? What are you saying? I have no idea.
You're just like, where's those Bible cartoons? Those old VHS.
Isn't there a video that you can send me that has cartoons and it like illustrates the point for me?
Oh, that's funny. All right, cool. We were able to swing one right there. So
yeah, we got it.
Cool, man. Right, well, there's a couple call to actions, right? Those interested in the Iron Council, obviously it's closed. You can sign up. The main thing is stay connected with Mr. Mickler on Twitter and Instagram at Ryan Mickler, or you can sign up for the newsletter at orderofman.com/Iron Council. The other key thing, though, is the Battle Ready. So the 30-day Battle Ready program, you can take some action, be self-directed in your growth, launch pad, and then join us, in Q4. So that's orderofman.com/battle ready, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool.
All right, guys. Appreciate
any
you.
Updates on the store?
Slowly but surely.
Put you on the spot
I just ordered.
Okay.
No, it's fine. I just ordered a bunch of new shirts. Battle planners are in stock. Inserts are in stock. Original Order Man shirts are in stock. Scout hats are in stock. I just have a brand new design coming out. Todd Van Fleet, who's our designer and fulfills a lot of this stuff, did a really cool anchor hold fast. Like it's going to be, it's rad. So I'm excited about that one. I should have that in the next 2 weeks or so, I imagine. Just did an order on that. So slowly but surely we're updating that. That's at store.orderofman.com.
Perfect. Excellent,
all right,
sir.
Thanks, Kip. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate you. Great questions today. We've got some leftovers we didn't get to. We'll get to those next week. But until then, go out there, take action, and become the man you are meant to be.